Let's take a look at the problem statement for case 1. A 22-year-old man with intellectual disability was found dead in his room. 10 days before his death, it was found that the patient has drunk considerable amount of volume. Autopsy findings stated that the man had congestion of the facial region with red-colored fluid in the nasal and oral cavities. We suspect that this red-colored fluid is a mixture of blood and water. The brain weighed 1,540 grams, which is heavier than normal. Again, we suspect that this is caused because of excess water. Similarly, the lungs also has high degree of swelling with the same red-colored fluid found in trachea and bronchi. And the bladder had 910 cc of urine, which is quite high, and it caused the bladder to expand quite severely. Other than that, histological analysis found prominent congestion and edema of the lung tissue, with edema is a state where a cell is swelling because of excess water. And the serum NA level was 108 milliequivalents per liter, which is lower than normal. We expect this is happening because of the high concentration of water. For the problem statement of case 2, a 23-year-old man with intellectual disability had polydipsia. The patient experienced diarrhea and vomiting because of the amount of volume he drank. The patient fell and was found unconscious, and unfortunately, he passed away despite immediate transport to the emergency room. Autopsy findings found contusion in the facial region because of the fall, congested brain, and the patient's lungs has high degree of swelling. The gastric cavity of the stomach was also ruptured with 3,100 cc of food debris in the intraperitoneal space. The patient bladder, however, was empty because of urethral catheterization. Histological analysis found edema of the subarachnoid space. Subarachnoid space is located close to the brain, just below the skull. And the cardiac vessels had protrusion and vocalization, and some cardiac muscle was also expanded, and there were fluid found in bronchi, and the kidney also showed edema. The serum NA value for this patient is below 100 milliequivalents per liter, which is dangerously low. So from these two cases, we can see a few similarities. The first one being both patients drank considerable amount of volume, and both patients experienced congestion in the brain and swelling in the lungs, and the serum NA level value was quite low for both of this patient.
The previous knowledge is about movement of molecule across the plasma membrane. Firstly, hypertonic solution. High concentration of solute outside of the cell will cause water move out of the cell. Second, isotonic solution. Same concentration of solute and water, so no movement will take place. Third, hypotonic solution. Low concentration of solute will cause water move into the cell.
On to problem solution for case 1. So based on the autopsy findings, we found that there is facial congestion with red colored fluid in the oral and nasal area. So what would cause this problem is the position of the dead body when it was found on the scene, which is prone position. So when the dead body is in prone position, the blood on the head of the body will flow in the facial area, which could cause the congestion in that area. Now next one, we found that brain weight is heavier than normal, which is 1,540 grams. So we know that the average weight of a brain for an adult male is like 1,336 grams. So the brain of this man is like 204 grams heavier. So what would cause the brain to be heavier than normal is that there is high concentration of water in the surrounding cells, cause the water to move into the brain cells. And then when there is more water on the brain cells, the brain will weigh more than usual. Now for the third one, we found that the lungs has high degree of swellings, which could mean it has a condition called pulmonary edema. Pulmonary edema is a condition that is caused by too much fluid in the lungs. So fluid will fill up air sacs in the lungs, making it hard to breathe for the patient and leading him to collapse. So this might be why the body was found on prone position on the scene.
For the next part, we know that the patient's bladder is extremely full where it contains 910 cc of urine, making the water is concentrated in the kidney to get the electrolytes or the sodium in our body out. And then, when serum NA level is low, the sodium level in our blood is diluted, making the kidney's ability to excrete water become overwhelmed, causing the patient to have hyponatremia, which can cause symptoms such as nausea, lethargy, and vomiting. For conclusion, we can say that the patient died most likely due to the difficulty of breathing caused by pulmonary edema, where the fluid fills up the space in the patient's alveolus, thus increasing the pressure in blood vessels. As a result, normal oxygen movement is reduced throughout the lungs, causing shortness of breath leading towards the patient's death.
These are the problem solutions for case 2. The first problem solution is related to the congested brain. The swelling of subarachnoid space is caused by excessive fluid around the cells. Since there are accumulation of fluid excessively in the brain cells, it causes a space called subarachnoid space to be swollen, and this gives pressure to the subarachnoid area because the brain is swollen. The second problem solution is related to lungs. Water collected in lungs causing pulmonary edema. This also caused the lungs to swell considerably. The man had difficulty of breathing, which may cause him to collapse. This is due to the failure of maintaining the effectiveness of oxygen exchanges in the body for all the cells of the victim. The third problem solution is related to the bladder. The bladder is empty because of bladder catheterization, which is a procedure done by the institution. Since the patient drank considerably, this causes the bladder to be filled with a lot of fluid. To counteract this situation, the institution did bladder catheterization to drain water from the main bladder. The fourth problem solution is greater curvature of stomach is ruptured. After the patient collapsed, he is most likely to be given CPR. However, since there is an excessive accumulation of fluid in the patient's stomach, he was most likely to experience indigestion. Hence, there was food debris contained in his stomach, which may have applied pressure to the patient's greater curvature when the CPR is done, and this may cause the greater curvature to rupture. The last problem solution is edema of the tubular epithelium in the kidney. Since there is an excessive fluid contained in the body, this causes the sodium in the victim cells to diffuse out from the cells, while the fluid will diffuse into the cells. Hence, that is why there is accumulation of extra sodium in the circulation, particularly at the kidney. And the fluid, of course, caused by the excessive consumption of water.
The average adult male's kidney can get rid about 1 liter of water every hour. This is also the reason why it is not recommended for us to drink more than 1 liter of water in the span of 1 hour. The victim had definitely drunk more than the maximum allowed amount of water to be drunk in the span of 1 hour and caused his kidney to overwork. This also caused excess water with nowhere to go, and thus creating a concentration difference for water between the surrounding of the cell and inside the cell. The water acts as a hypertonic solution to the cells inside the body because of the imbalance of water concentration. This causes a shift of balance in the electrolyte level of the human body and thus interfere with the bodily function of the normal human body. The water will diffuse into the cell via osmosis and diffuses out to the surrounding cell once the concentration of water inside the cell is higher compared to the surrounding cell. In conclusion, the patient died due to overhydration, which also led to water intoxication, and excessive consumption of fluid caused the overwork of kidney. We also suspected that hyponatremia is also one of the suspected factors to the death. Because too much water diffuses into the cell of the body, the cell is lacking sodium, which is electrolyte, and due to the water diffusing into the cell, the sodium inside the cell diffuses out to balance out the water concentration. Due to this, the body will be lacking electrolytes, which causes water to diffuse inside and out of the cell.
The importance of maintaining solid movement across plasma membrane. First, regulation of electrolyte. The electrolytes ensure bodily function is normal. Therefore, it's important that electrolytes is constantly regulated to the correct level. For example, regulating chemical reactions and maintain fluid balance. If fail, this will refer as hypernatremia, which can cause dizzy and vomit. Second, plasma membrane prevent entrance of harmful material and exit of essential materials. Plasma membrane is semi-permeable or selectively permeable, which means only certain substance can pass through. This includes fat-soluble vitamins, small ions, and simple sugars. Meanwhile, harmful materials like bacteria and virus is prohibited from passing through the plasma membrane. If it does not selectively permeable, the cell would no longer to sustain itself and would be destroyed. Lastly, discharge of waste products. Metabolic waste like carbon dioxide, water, oxygen, and nitrogenous compounds needs to be removed from the cell because these items are not needed for the cells anymore. These wastes are toxic to the cell and can cause the cell to stop working. Case 1 and Case 2 have 4 differences. In the Case 1, bladder was severely expanded. Kidney is unaffected. Brain wave is higher than normal. Presence of red-colored fluid in the trachea and bronchi. While in the Case 2, bladder was empty because of kidney catheterization. Edema of tubular epithelium in kidney. Brain wave is relatively normal. Trachea and bronchi is empty.